Akiki had always known that loving Prince Maxwell would not be easy. From the very beginning, their connection had felt like something out of a dream, intense, unexpected, and full of promise. Yet beneath that beauty was a storm brewing. Nai, the river goddess, had warned her to stay away from the prince. The goddess's threats weren't empty. She was powerful and feared across the land, but Akiki's heart didn't care about threats. The more Nai tried to scare her, the more determined Akiki became. Each day, her feelings for the prince grew deeper. She would sit by her window for hours, staring into the fading sunlight, wondering if there was a way to love him and still survive the wrath of the goddess. But in her heart, she already knew the answer. Love was a risk, always had been. And if she wanted to be with him, she'd have to face the danger head on. One evening, just as the sky turned gold and purple with the setting sun, Akiki made up her mind. She dressed in her finest gown, the one her mother had sewn for special occasions, and made her way to the palace. Her heart pounded in her chest, not from fear of Nai, but from the hope that maybe, just maybe, Prince Maxwell still wanted her too. When she arrived, the guards let her through, and soon she was face to face with the prince. He looked surprised, but his eyes lit up the moment he saw her. "Akiki, what brings you here?" he asked softly. She took a deep breath, steadying her voice. "I've thought a lot about what you said. About us. And I've made my choice. I want to be with you no matter what happens." His face broke into a smile that melted away all the fear she'd been carrying. "You have no idea how happy that makes me." For a moment, everything felt right. But deep down, Akiki couldn't forget Nai's warning. She knew this decision would change her life forever. Still, she stood tall, willing to face whatever came next. "I'm not afraid anymore," she whispered to herself as she walked home that night. Love is worth fighting for. And though the path ahead was full of unknowns, Akiki had made her choice. It wasn't just about love, it was about freedom. She would no longer be ruled by fear. The morning after her confrontation with the goddess Nai, Akiki woke with a heavy heart but a clear purpose. The air felt different, charged, as if the world was watching her next move. She knew now that love alone wouldn't be enough to fight a goddess. She needed wisdom, strength, and something more than just good intentions. So she made her way to the small hut on the edge of the village where Mama Akpaka, the wise woman, lived. Mama Akpaka listened carefully as Akiki poured out her heart about the prince, about Nai's threats, and about her desire to fight for her future. The old woman's eyes, clouded with age, but sharp with insight, narrowed as she nodded. "Child," she said, "love is powerful, yes. But the wrath of a goddess is not to be taken lightly. If you truly want to stand against Nai, you must prove that your heart is brave, your spirit strong, and your intentions pure." "What do I need to do?" Akiki asked, her voice steady. "There are 3 tasks," Mama Akpaka replied, reaching into a wooden chest and pulling out an old scroll wrapped in faded cloth. "These trials will test everything inside you. Only by completing them will you earn the right to confront the goddess on your own terms." The first task was to retrieve a golden feather from the top of the Forbidden Mountain, a place whispered about in fearful tones, said to be guarded by a fierce and ancient eagle. Many had tried. None had returned. Still, Akiki didn't hesitate. She packed lightly, whispered a prayer, and began the long climb. The air thinned as she rose higher, her legs aching, her breath short, but she didn't stop. When she reached the peak, she found the eagle waiting, its wings like bronze shields, its eyes deep and knowing. Akiki bowed her head and spoke softly. "I seek the golden feather, not for fame, but to protect the one I love." The eagle studied her, then without a sound allowed her to take one shimmering feather from its side. It was a gift of trust, earned by sincerity. When she returned, Mama Akpaka nodded with pride. "You've passed the first test, but the next will be harder." The second task sent her deep into the enchanted forest to fetch water from a sacred spring known to hide itself with illusions. The forest twisted paths, whispered lies, and tried to trick her, but Akiki kept her focus and found the spring. A voice echoed as she filled her jug. "Only the pure of heart find this place." She had passed 2 trials, but the third, she knew, would be the hardest yet. Akiki had just returned from the enchanted forest, the sacred water safely in her hands, her body sore but her spirit stronger than ever. She felt a quiet sense of pride, 2 tasks completed, only 1 more to go. Her heart beat with both excitement and fear as she approached Mama Akpaka's hut to prepare for the final challenge. But when she stepped inside, something felt off. Mama Akpaka sat in silence, her usually warm eyes clouded with worry, her hands trembling in her lap. She didn't greet Akiki with her usual smile. Instead, her face was pale, her expression distant, haunted. "Mama Akpaka?" Akiki said gently. "I'm ready for the last task." The old woman looked up slowly, her voice barely a whisper. I can't help you anymore, child?" "What do you mean?" Akiki asked, confused. Last night, while Akiki had been away, Nai had appeared. The air in the room had turned ice cold, and the candlelight had flickered violently. The goddess had stepped out of the shadows with eyes burning like fire. Her voice was thunder, her presence overwhelming. She had threatened Mama Akpaka with terrifying certainty. "If you continue helping that girl," Nai had said, "you and your only son will die." Mama Akpaka had fallen to her knees, her heart pounding in terror. "Please, Great One," she had begged. "I meant no harm. I only wanted to help her find love." But Nai's rage was unforgiving. "You will suffer the consequences of your defiance," she hissed before vanishing into the night, leaving a silence so deep it rang in Mama Akpaka's ears long after she was gone. Now, staring into Akiki's hopeful eyes, Mama Akpaka struggled with what to say. "Nai came to me," she finally confessed, her voice shaking. "She threatened to kill me and my son if I helped you any further." "I'm sorry, child. I cannot risk my son's life." Akiki stood frozen for a moment, the words hitting her like cold rain. But then, she stepped forward and took Mama Akpaka's hands. "I understand," she said softly. "You've done so much already, and I'm grateful, but I can't stop now. I have to finish this, even if I'm alone." Mama Akpaka looked into the young woman's eyes and saw something unshakable: courage, purpose, and a fierce determination that no goddess could break. "You are brave, Akiki," she said quietly. "Braver than I ever was. Please, just be careful." "I will," Akiki promised, her voice steady. And with that, she walked out into the night, knowing the road ahead would be darker but never doubting she'd see it through. Just as Akiki was gathering the strength to face her final task, far away in the palace, Prince Maxwell was sitting in the royal garden, lost in thought. The wind rustled the leaves gently, but nothing could calm the storm brewing in his heart. He hadn't seen Akiki in days, but her presence lingered in his mind, her smile, her determination, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke of love and freedom. And yet, something about it all felt unfinished. Then, out of nowhere, a woman appeared before him. She was dressed in flowing robes with eyes that seemed to pierce straight through him. "I am a prophet," she said calmly, "and I come bearing the truth about the woman you love." Maxwell straightened up, wary but curious. "What do you mean?" The woman's voice dropped. "Akiki is not who you think she is. She has blood on her hands, the blood of your father, the late king, and the palace chiefs. She murdered them, one by one." Prince Maxwell froze, the words hitting him like a blow to the chest. "No, that can't be true. Akiki would never." "She did," the woman interrupted firmly. "Her heart is full of darkness. She used you to get close to the throne. If you let her in, she'll finish what she started." His face contorted with disbelief and rage. "She must pay for this," he shouted. But then the woman's tone changed. A sly smile spread across her face. "No, my prince, don't kill her. There's no need." "What do you mean?" Maxwell asked, confused. "She's already dead, living among the living, but dead on the inside. Leave her to her fate." Maxwell stared at her, his heart racing. "Who are you?" But the woman turned and walked away. As she did, her form shimmered, then transformed into Nai, the river goddess, her laughter echoing through the air like thunder. "Yes," she cackled. "I did it. Akiki must marry my son now. She has no choice." Later that day, Akiki arrived at the palace, her heart full of hope and readiness to explain everything, but before she could speak, Prince Maxwell exploded. "How could you, Akiki?" he roared. "You murdered my father and my people. You deceived me, used me." "No, wait! "It's not true," she cried. But he refused to listen. His eyes, once filled with love, now held only pain and betrayal. "This is over," he said coldly. "Leave. And never come back." Devastated, Akiki turned and walked away, her heart breaking, but her resolve stronger than ever. The sky was overcast as Akiki walked with heavy steps toward the riverbank, the place where everything had begun. Her chest ached, not just from heartbreak, but from the betrayal that had shattered her world. Prince Maxwell had turned his back on her, believing the lies spun by Nye. Her name was now tied to death, to treachery, to shame. The palace, her dreams, her love gone. She stood at the edge of the water, the wind whipping her hair across her face. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, lifting her eyes to the gray horizon, she called out not in fear, but in fury. "Nye?" Her voice rang out, cracking with emotion. "I know you can hear me. Come out." The river rippled, then stilled. The wind died. And from the depths, Nye rose, her figure tall and shimmering, eyes glowing like molten gold, her face both beautiful and terrifying. "You dare summon me?" the goddess asked, her voice deep and chilling. Akiki stepped forward, fists clenched at her sides. "You've taken everything from me, my love, my future. You turned the prince against me with lies. You defied the will of the gods?" Nye hissed. "You thought you could love freely without consequence. That was your mistake." "No!" Akiki snapped. "My only mistake was underestimating how far you'd go to control me. But I'm not afraid of you anymore. You've caused enough pain." The river began to churn as Nye's rage rose. "You forget your place, child. I gave you life, and I can take it just as easily. Prince Maxwell will marry my daughter. The throne will belong to my bloodline." Akiki's voice trembled, but she didn't back down. "You will never love her the way he loved me. No spell, no trick, no threat will change that." Nye's eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. "You are nothing compared to me." "Maybe," Akiki said, tears slipping down her cheeks, "but I'm still standing. And I won't stop fighting." The air crackled with tension as Nye stared at her, face contorted with fury. "Then be ready," the goddess said coldly. "I will not rest until you are broken." With that, Nye vanished into the depths, the river calming as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Akiki stood there in silence, shaken but unbroken. Nye's threats echoed in her ears, but her spirit burned brighter. She knew now this wasn't just a fight for love. It was a fight for her voice, her freedom, and her future. She wiped her tears and whispered to herself, "If I have to stand alone, I will. But I won't stop. Not now." After her painful confrontation with Nye at the river, Akiki returned home emotionally drained but more determined than ever. She didn't know how she would stop Nye's schemes, but she knew she had to try. Deep down, something told her the goddess wasn't finished yet, and she was right. Back beneath the dark waters of the river, Nye seethed. Furious at Akiki's defiance, she summoned her daughter Sabrina. The girl emerged slowly from the depths, a radiant, striking woman with smooth skin, mesmerizing eyes, and a beauty that could weaken the strongest man's will. She was no ordinary woman. She was part serpent, part enchantress, and all danger. "My daughter," Nye said, her voice like a hiss through the trees. "The girl is still standing. But if we can't break her spirit, we'll take what she loves most. Go to Prince Maxwell. Make him yours. He must forget her. He must choose you." Sabrina smirked. "Consider it done, mother." Meanwhile at the palace, Prince Maxwell couldn't stop thinking about Akiki. Her voice, her laughter, the way she looked at him, it all haunted him, even though anger still burned inside him. He walked the village paths to clear his head, but peace was nowhere to be found. Then, as if fate had heard his turmoil, he saw her. A young woman stood by the well, her skin glowing in the soft sunlight, her eyes shimmering like the river at dawn. She wore a gentle smile that seemed to reach into his chest and settle the storm inside. She bowed slightly and spoke in a voice so sweet it seemed to echo like a lullaby. "Good day, Your Highness," she said. "I'm Sabrina. I often walk these paths. They bring me peace." Prince Maxwell, taken aback by her beauty and grace, responded politely, "Good day to you, Sabrina. It's rare to see someone new around here." "I don't come often," she replied, smiling. But this village, it has a certain calmness to it. A healing energy. They walked and talked, and slowly, the prince felt himself relaxing. There was something comforting about Sabrina, her presence, her attentiveness. But beneath her charm, her eyes flickered with quiet cunning. She was working her magic. That night, Akiki had a dream. Her mother appeared to her, looking worried. "Go to the prince," she warned. "Tell him to stay away from the woman named Sabrina. She is not who she seems." Akiki woke up with a jolt. Heart pounding, she threw on her shawl and raced toward the palace. But the guards wouldn't let her in. Desperate, she turned to the only person she could think of, an old friend. She had to act quickly. Everything was at stake. Akiki stood outside her old friend's home, out of breath and trembling from urgency. The dream had shaken her to her core. Her mother's voice had been so clear, her warning about Sabrina so urgent. She knew she had to act fast before Sabrina tightened her grip on Prince Maxwell. But when Akiki pleaded with her friend to take her to the most powerful native doctor they knew, the woman recoiled. "Akiki," she said, glancing nervously over her shoulder, "you don't know what you're asking. Nai is dangerous. People who go up against her don't return." "I don't care," Akiki replied. "I've already lost so much. I won't let her take him too." Her friend hesitated, then shook her head. "I can't take you to the native doctor, but I know someone else, a pastor. He's strong in spirit, and he fears no darkness." Akiki's hope sparked again. "Take me to him." Later that day, Akiki sat across from the wise pastor, a man with kind eyes, a weathered Bible, and a quiet strength that seemed to fill the room. He listened patiently as she told him everything. Nai, the tasks, the threats, the false accusations, and now Sabrina. When she finished, the pastor took a deep breath and looked into her eyes. "My child," he said gently, "you've been under the influence of a powerful darkness for a long time. There are things you don't know. Nai was responsible for the deaths of your parents and your husband. It wasn't just the king's punishment that killed him. Nai's vengeance did." Akiki's breath caught. Her eyes welled with tears. "No, I didn't know. And there's more," he continued. "In her rage, she used you as a weapon. You may not have realized it, but innocent lives were taken because of her influence over you. If you want peace, you must first seek forgiveness from the families of those who were lost." Akiki's heart shattered. Guilt rushed in like a tidal wave. But beneath the pain was clarity. She had to make things right. The pastor stood, Bible in hand. "But first, we deal with Nai." That night, the pastor began to pray with intensity, calling on the power of God to intervene. The air grew heavy, and suddenly, Nai appeared in full force, fury radiating from her form. "You dare challenge me," she thundered. But the pastor didn't flinch. He quoted scripture, his voice steady, commanding, full of faith. Nai's power surged like a violent storm, but with each verse, her strength began to crack. In one final thunderous prayer, the pastor raised his Bible high, and with a scream of rage, Nai's form began to dissolve, her darkness broken at last. The battle was over. But Akiki's journey toward redemption had only just begun. With Nai finally defeated, the skies over the village seemed brighter, calmer. But peace didn't come easily to Akiki. Her heart was still heavy with the truth she had learned. Though she had been under Nai's influence, the pain others had suffered because of her actions was real. The pastor had been clear: redemption wouldn't come from defeating a goddess alone. It would only come through humility, repentance, and seeking forgiveness. So Akiki began her journey, not for love, but for healing. She visited the homes of the families whose lives had been shattered by the chaos she'd unknowingly helped cause. At each doorstep, she bowed her head, not asking for pity, but offering a sincere apology. Her voice never wavered as she admitted her role, confessed what had been hidden, and begged for forgiveness, not because it was easy, but because it was right. Some people wept with her. They saw her heart, her brokenness, and the courage it took to face them. They forgave her. They embraced her. In those moments, Akiki felt something holy, a weight lifting. But not everyone was ready. Some families still bore deep wounds, their grief too raw to let go of their anger. They turned her away, and Akiki, though hurt, accepted it. She knew forgiveness wasn't something odd, it was a gift, and not everyone was ready to give it. Finally, with trembling hands, Akiki returned to the palace one last time. She stood before Prince Maxwell, no longer seeking love, but closure. "Prince Maxwell," she said softly, "I'm sorry. For everything. I never meant to cause pain. I don't expect your love. I don't expect anything. I just needed you to know the truth." He looked at her for a long moment. The anger in his eyes had faded, replaced by something gentler, grief, maybe, or understanding. "I believe you, Akiki," he said at last, "and I forgive you. But some wounds, they don't just disappear. I can't marry you. Too much has happened, but I hope you find peace. You deserve that much." Akiki nodded, holding back tears. "Thank you. For everything." As she walked away from the palace for the final time, she didn't feel broken. She felt free. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't chasing love or running from fear. She was simply moving forward. In the real world, many of us carry pain we didn't ask for, and sometimes we hurt others while trying to survive our own storms. Akiki's story reminds us that healing isn't just about being forgiven. It's about taking responsibility, making things right, and learning to live with grace even when the path is lonely. Because true strength isn't in avoiding failure. It's in what we do after we've fallen.